In the remote woodlands of Montana's Bitterroot Mountains, a dog named Princess, half wolf, half shepherd, was abandoned to fend for herself in the unforgiving wild alone and uncertain. She discovered something remarkable: orphaned bobcat kittens, helpless and near death, left to survive alone. Princess transformed her despair into a mission in an unprecedented act. She adopted the kittens, becoming their protector, their teacher, and their mother. But what happens when predators clash, instincts are challenged, and survival hangs by a thread? Can this unconventional family withstand the ruthless laws of nature? This is a story of unlikely bonds, fierce courage, and a mother's love. Love that knows no boundaries. Before we start, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The mid-October winds whispered through the Montana forest, carrying the first hints of winter's approach. Leaves spiral down from ancient oaks and maples, creating a kaleidoscope of amber, crimson, and gold across the forest floor. In this remote corner of the Bitterroot Mountains, nature followed its timeless rhythm, indifferent to the small drama unfolding beneath its canopy. Boromir Hastings stood tall at the edge of a clearing, his weathered face expressionless as he gazed at the dog sitting obediently. At his feet, Princess, a magnificent half-wolf, half-German shepherd hybrid with piercing amber eyes and a silver-gray coat, looked up at him with unwavering trust. At 7 years old, she remained strong and dignified despite the hardships of her life. "Come on, girl," Boromir muttered, adjusting his worn leather gloves just a bit further. Once upon a time, Boromir had been the most respected dog breeder in 3 counties. His specialty in wolf hybrids had brought him fame, fortune, and a sprawling ranch outside of Missoula. Princess had been his pride and joy, his best breeding female, producing litter after litter of perfect puppies that sold for thousands each. But those days were long gone. The economic downer had hit rural Montana hard. People weren't buying expensive puppies anymore, and Boromir's debts had mounted. The ranch was now foreclosed, the kennels empty, save for Princess. At 58, Boromir found himself facing bankruptcy, eviction, and the collapse of his life's work. The anger and resentment had festered within him until it poisoned everything, even his relationship with the dogs he once loved. Princess followed him deeper into the forest, her paws crunching through fallen leaves. She had given him 5 years of breeding, 16 litters, and over 70 puppies. But her last litter had been small, just 3 pups, and Boromir had decided she was past her prime. What use was a breeding dog that couldn't breed, with the last of his money going toward a small apartment in town where no pets were allowed? Princess had become just another problem to solve. They reached a small stream cutting through the forest. Sunlight dappled the clear, cold water as it bubbled over smooth stones. In the distance, the snow-capped peaks of the Bitterroot Range pierced the sky. "Sit," Boromir commanded, and Princess immediately obeyed her tail, sweeping a small arc through the fallen leaves from his pocket. Boromir pulled a length of rope with practiced hands. He fashioned a makeshift collar and leash, then secured Princess to the trunk of a sturdy pine tree stay. He ordered, though the command was unnecessary. Princess had never disobeyed him for a moment. Something like regret flickered across Boromir's lined face. He reached out his callous hand, hesitating before finally patting Princess's head. "One last time, someone will find you," he muttered. Though he knew these woods were rarely traversed, it was easier than admitting the truth than facing what he was really doing. "Or you'll break free. You're half wild anyway." Princess whined softly, sensing something was wrong. Her intelligent eyes tracked Boromir as he straightened, turned, and began walking away. She didn't bark or howl. She simply watched, confused, as the only human she had ever known disappeared between the trees. Princess settled onto her hunches, patient and trusting Boromir would return. He always returned, but as the afternoon shadows lengthened and the forest grew quiet with the approach of evening, a growing unease settled over the abandoned dog. The distant howl of a wolf pack sent a shiver through her. Awakening something primal and long dormant, night fell. The temperature dropped, hunger knotted her belly. Still, Princess waited. Dawn broke cold and clear, painting the forest in pale gold light. Princess had spent the night alternating between fitful sleep and alert watchfulness. Her throat was parched, her stomach empty. The stream gurgled just beyond her reach, a cruel reminder of how close yet inaccessible relief was by midday. Acceptance slowly replaced confusion. Boromir wasn't coming. Back the realization settled into Princess's consciousness, like a stone sinking into a still pond. With it came something else, a stirring of her wolf heritage. The ancient knowledge of survival coded into her DNA. The rope around her neck was sturdy, but not impervious to sharp teeth. Princess began to chew, working methodically at the fibers. Pain lanced through her gums as one of her teeth cracked, but she persisted. Hour after hour she gnawed and pulled, until just as the second sunset since her abandonment painted the sky in fiery hues, the rope finally gave way. Freedom was disorienting after a lifetime of captivity. Princess approached the stream cautiously, lapping at the cold water until her thirst was quenched. Then, with the instinct of her wild ancestors guiding her, she began to haunt. The first few days were brutal. Princess was accustomed to regular meals of premium dog food, not the harsh reality of catching her own prey. Her initial attempts at hunting were clumsy and unsuccessful. She survived on berries, grubs, and the occasional unlucky mouse that crossed her path. But with each passing day, her movements grew more fluid, her senses more attuned to the forest. The wolf blood in her veins asserted itself, teaching her to move silently, to scent prey on the wind, to kill quickly and efficiently. She learned to catch rabbits, to fish in shallow streams, to find edible plants and roots. Weeks passed. Princess's one sleek coat grew thicker as winter approached. Her body, leaner but stronger. The forest became her domain, a place where she moved with growing confidence. She established a territory, marking its boundaries and defending it against other predators. She found a den beneath the roots of a fallen spruce, lining it with dried grasses and leaves. It was during an unusually warm day in late November that Princess, following the scent of water to a new stream, heard the sounds that would change everything. The cries were faint, barely perceptible above the rustling of leaves and the gurgle of the stream, but Princess's ears, now finely tuned to the symphony of the forest, caught the distinctive mewing. The desperate cries of young and distressed curiosity overcame caution. Princess followed the sound to a hollow beneath a rocky outcropping. The scent that greeted her was unmistakable. The musky odor of bobcat mingled with the metallic tang of blood, and the sour smell of death. Inside the den lay a female bobcat, her body stiff and cold. Disease or injury had claimed her, leaving behind 4 tiny kittens. Their eyes barely opened, their spotted, first still downy. Soft they squirmed blindly, mewing for a mother who would never return. Princess should have retreated. These were not her kind. They were potential rivals, future threats in her territory. The wolf part of her understood the brutal mathematics of survival. Resources were limited, and competition eliminated. But another part of her, perhaps the dog bred for generations to nurture, or perhaps something more fundamental, a recognition of vulnerability that transcended species, kept her rooted to the spot. One of the kittens, a tiny male with unusually dark spots, crawled toward her. Guided by the heat of her body, his small form trembled with cold and hunger. Without thinking, Princess lowered herself to the ground and began to lick the kitten, cleaning him as she would have cleaned her own puppies. The maternal instinct that had been exploited by Boromir for breeding now found a new unexpected purpose. Princess carefully gathered each kitten one by one, carrying them back to her den beneath the spruce. There in the warm darkness, she curled around them, offering her body heat against the growing chill of approaching winter. The first night was precarious. 2 of the kittens were already severely weakened, and Princess could only watch helplessly as the smallest female succumbed to hunger and exposure. But the remaining 3, 2 males and a female, clung tenaciously to life. By morning, Princess faced a critical challenge. The kittens needed milk, which she didn't have. She had not welled the litter in over a year, and her body had long since stopped producing without maternal milk. The bobcat orphans would surely die in a remarkable twist of physiology, one that occasionally occurs in nature when strong maternal instincts are triggered. Princess's body began to respond. It wasn't immediate and it wasn't abundant, but within days her dormant mammary glands began producing milk again. It was a near miraculous adaptation, her body responding to the desperate need of the orphans who now depended on her. The milk was enough just barely to sustain the three remaining kittens. Princess supplemented it by bringing back partially digested meat from her own hunting, regurgitating it for the kittens as they grew older and began to transition to solid food the winter.